Hello, I'm Shruti Darbamula and I will be speaking about the American elections today. On November 3rd, 2020, Americans will be voting for the 46th President of the United States. Incumbent President and Republican Party nominee Donald Trump faces off against Democratic presidential nominee and former Vice President under the Obama administration, Joe Biden, in what promises to be a heated race. This race is especially critical at a moment where the USA is still struggling to deal with the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. There has also been rising unemployment, record unemployment levels, and a staggering decline in the economy. Adding to this are widespread protests against racial injustice and police brutality happening right now in various cities. So there has been increased polarization ever since Donald Trump took office in 2016, where he bet Hillary Clinton, although she got 3 million more votes in the general election. Right now, the nation is looking for stability and a semblance of sanity as the country is hit by a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has already killed 227,000 Americans. So right now, for the general elections, there are 4 candidates. Yes, for the Republican Party is of course fielding Donald Trump and Mike Pence. The Democratic Party is fielding Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. This marks the first time that an Asian American, Indian American, or black woman has been on the Democratic ticket as a nominee. The Green Party is fielding Howie Hawkins and Angela Nicole Walker, and the Libertarian Party is fielding Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen. There are also independent candidates in the fray. At least 7 candidates have qualified to be on the ballot in 5 or more states. This leads to interesting choices such as musician and celebrity Kanye West, who is on the ballot in states such as Vermont, Colorado, Minnesota, and Kentucky. So while the presence of independent candidates, Green Party candidates, and Libertarian candidates is not a threat on a national scale, it might definitely be a factor in key battleground states, because there might be a siphoning off of voters from the establishment party candidates to these other candidates. Now, let's take a look at the main candidates and their positions going into these elections. So we have incumbent President Donald J. Trump, 74, who came into power in 2016 on the platform of Make America Great Again. He continues to espouse the very same rhetoric. As his campaign website says, he followed no rule book and he took his message directly to the people. This is the same approach he continues to follow, holding crowded rallies, even in violation of mandates, trying to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. So his policy platform is based on the concept of America First and closely aligns with Republican Party values. He is aiming for lower taxes. He's aiming to repeal and replace Obamacare, reduce regulation for several industries, strengthen borders and restrict immigration, which also includes building his famed wall on the US-Mexico border. He also wishes to strengthen the military, and he has been engaging in isolationist trade policies which prioritize American jobs and the American economy, again putting America first. Other Republican Party values which also are closely tied to his platform include being pro-gun rights, anti-abortion, pro-small government, anti-immigrant, and pro-tax cuts. His Vice President Mike Pence is a conservative, family-oriented man who has expressed, has opposed LGBTQ rights and some same-sex marriage. Now, when we come to the Democratic Party candidate, Joe Biden, who, if elected, will be the oldest president to ever take office at 78. He is a moderate Democrat, and his party platform includes bringing the nation back on track from the COVID pandemic, dealing with the public health crisis, focusing on economic recovery, furthering the cause of affordable healthcare, tackling climate change, bettering conditions for immigrants, and and he also aligns with other democratic values such as being pro-choice and in favor of gun control. Biden has also spoken out against racial inequality and discrimination and has pledged to eliminate white supremacy and racism in the country. However, he himself has a mildly uneven track record with race, even supporting being the architect of a 1994 crime bill, which was accused of incarcerating more Black Americans, and he was also shown he also opposed the policy of busing, which was a move to bring about further integration of Black and white communities by sending Black kids to schools in predominantly white neighborhoods as well. He was called out for his stance on this position by none other than his current running mate, Kamala Harris. Now, as I mentioned before, Kamala Harris is the first Asian American, the first Indian American, and the first Black woman to be on a major presidential ticket. She's an immigrant. Her father was Jamaican. Her mother is Indian. Her mother grew up in Tamil Nadu before coming to the United States to pursue graduate studies and become a cancer biologist. So Kamala Harris brings an interesting cultural background into the mix. She has an interesting political and legal background. She has a reputation for being a tough on crime prosecutor. She was Attorney General of California, and she was also voted to the United States Senate in 2016. So now, how will the election be decided? Well, in the United States, a key component to the election process is the Electoral College vote system, a finicky process which has been accused of not being truly representative, truly democratic, and providing unnecessarily privilege to certain states. So according to this Electoral College vote system, voters do not directly vote for a particular candidate. Instead, they vote for a party. So when a voter casts his ballot, he votes for a party, and then the candidate with the greatest share, the majority share of the votes in a state, will be the one who gets all the electoral votes from that state. So there are a total of 538 electors, and for a candidate to win, they need 270, a majority of 270 votes. And in the Electoral college system, the popular vote is irrelevant. The proportion or the margin of victory of each candidate in each state is also irrelevant, because irrespective of the margin of victory, all the electoral votes will go to the candidate getting the popular vote in that state. Now, how likely is it that Trump will get re-elected to the White House? For that, if we look at a state-wise and demographic breakdown, there are certain factors which are in his favor. For example, Trump has strong support across the conservative states in the south of the United States, which have traditionally voted Republican. Biden, on the other hand, has a distinct advantage on the east and west coasts and in liberal enclaves and urban areas. There are certain swing states which will be the pivotal points where the election will play out. In this election, they formed the pivotal point in 2016. These swing states include Rust Belt states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Now, the Rust Belt states consisted of non-educated working class white voters who were expected to vote for Hillary in the 2016 election but ended up voting for Trump, resulting in a shock upset for her. It remains to be seen whether Biden will attract this working class white voter who did not vote for Hillary in 2016. In terms of demographics, Trump enjoys a distinct advantage with this set of voters, although this base has shrunk over the past 4 years. Also, white voters in general prefer Trump across the board. Although Biden is doing way better with white voters in 2020 than Hillary did in 2016. Men are divided between Trump and Biden, but women continue to favor the Democratic Party candidate. In this case, they favor Biden by as much as 17 percentage points, according to statistics from the Pew Research Center. Biden also enjoys strong support among college-educated voters, and he also enjoys support among minority voters, including Black, Latino, and Asian American voters, which also includes Indian American voters. Apart from these factors, there are several complications which might make it difficult for voters to actually raise their voice in these elections. Now, when it comes to the actual voting mechanisms, there are 3 ways in which American voters can cast their vote. 1, they can request a mail-in ballot. 2, they can vote early in person at designated sites in their county. 3, they can actually vote on the election day in person at assigned polling places. Now, absentee voting is being downplayed across the board by Trump and by Republicans, who have also been undermining the US Postal Service. Trump also appointed a new Postmaster General in June 2020, Louis DeJoy, who brought in many structural changes, resulting in a massive slowdown in the mail. Although DeJoy has now agreed to postpone these operational changes till after the elections, delays continue to plague the post and may have a significant impact on the outcome of the election if 1, absentee ballots are misplaced, or 2, they arrive only after the counting has already been completed. A federal judge described the Postal Service restructuring efforts as an intentional effort on the part of the current administration to disrupt and challenge the legitimacy of upcoming local, state, and federal elections. In 2013, the US Supreme Court also gutted the important section of the Voting Rights Act, which allowed states to bring in changes to election laws and procedures only after they get pre-clearance from the US Department of Justice. This measure was in the act to prevent disenfranchisement of minority voters. But after the gutting of the act, states are free to bring in whatever regulations they deem fit. This has resulted in strict voter ID laws which discriminate against minority voters. But there is a bright spot even in these situations. Americans have been voting in record numbers. 64 million Americans have already voted, far more than was achieved at this point in 2016, and many of these votes have also been in key battleground states. Nearly 2 million more registered Democrats have voted than Republicans so far. So clearly, the American election this time around is very important. We need greater stability during the coronavirus pandemic. The American economy continues to tank. Unemployment remains at a dismally high rate, and racial tensions continue to bubble across the country. This American election will also have significance at the international level. Now, during this term, Trump has continued to deny the effect of climate change. Rather, he has denied that it exists at all. He has, under his aegis, the United States withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord. he also cut contributions to the World Health Organization while the world was fighting, continues to fight a global pandemic. He has also withdrawn from NATO and alienated allies in the European Union and also countries such as Iran. Further, he has also created an uncertain economic and public health situation due to his continued mishandling of the coronavirus pandemic in the United States. So people are looking to a Biden presidency as something that will help restore this balance, help the United States tackle climate change more effectively, help the United States rebuild bonds with allies in the EU and NATO and Iran, and also also hope that it might result in better cooperation with international agencies. Although American intelligence agencies confirmed that Russia interfered in the 2016 US elections, President Trump still has a relatively amicable relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Another important aspect here is the fact that US-China relations have been strained in recent times. Under Trump, China has faced trade tariffs, gutted visas for its students, and action over cybersecurity issues. While Washington and Beijing might still face challenges, even under a Biden presidency, it is to be hoped that there is a different approach and a more understanding approach towards international relations from the Biden presidency, as opposed to the isolationist, aggressive measures that Trump has undertaken. Now coming to the potential impact on India. It will definitely be a matter of pride for Indians and for the Indian American community if Kamala Harris becomes the Vice President of the United States. But apart from the optics, there are important policy considerations at play. For example, US-India ties in three key areas are important right now: trade, immigration, and curbing China's growing influence in the region. President Trump has shared a decent bond with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, even visiting in February 2020. Affluent Indian Americans have voted Republican in the past, even though more than 70% of Indian Americans still lean Democratic, and only 16% voted for Trump in 2016. But despite these overtures of friendship, Trump has taken some steps which have definitely harmed Indian interests. For example, Trump signed Indian executive orders banning the entry of various classes of immigrants to the United States, including those on work visas such as the H-1B. His administration is also proposing further restrictions to work visas, including a wage limit. This will definitely impact India, whose citizens form the largest pool for H-1B visas. Trump's administration is also making plans related to gutting student visas and the popular OPT program, which allows students to stay in the country after they graduate. Again, this is something that will have ramifications for Indian students as well. Another aspect which India might consider is the aspect of US cooperation to curb China. Under Trump and Biden, policies might widely differ. Under a Biden presidency, India might take a more hedging approach, where it would cooperate with China on certain key issues, on areas of mutual interest, while continuing to build its defenses and tackle China on a case-by-case basis. Under the Trump presidency, there might be a slightly more aggressive, balancing approach, which would involve building a coalition with like-minded states. Now, it remains to be seen which of these are in India's better interests and which path the Modi government chooses to take, especially given the current standoff at our border. But historically, India has had varied responses from both Republican and Democratic presidents. There is no being certain whether a second term under Trump or a Biden presidency will be beneficial for India and lead to better ties. Trump's allyship may be transient and not continue to a second term if he continues to take measures that harm Indian workers and interests, and Biden might focus on certain issues which are more important for Americans right now and might not make US-India ties a priority. A final note. Under the Trump presidency, there has been a marked increase in white supremacy, racism, xenophobia, and anti-immigrant rhetoric. The current reckoning of racial injustice and police brutality will guide many as they make the trip to the polls, including many young Indian American voters. This is a historic election for the United States as it confronts problems relating to universal health care, um, racial injustice, and an understanding of its role in a modern world. As America goes to the world, goes to the polls, the world will be watching. Thank you.